Here's a look at price and the elasticity of demand. Price is an interesting part of the marketing mix because it has both a direct and an indirect impact on profit. Profit, of course, is total revenue minus total costs. Total revenue is price times quantity sold, so when you change price, you can change total revenue and profit. But it's not as simple as multiplying price times quantity sold, because price may affect the quantity you sell in complex ways. Economic theory tells us that higher prices cause companies to sell fewer items, and lower prices cause companies to sell more items. In economics, this is called the law of demand, and it means that economic demand curves always have negative slopes. But price also has a psychological impact on a product's image. Sometimes low prices are very important to consumers, and they flock to companies with low prices, but not always. In some situations, a higher price might make the product look more attractive to consumers, or at least a higher price might not drive consumers away. In economic theory, a demand curve is a graph that shows the quantity of products expected to be sold at various prices if all other factors remain constant. You can think of all other factors as being the elements of the marketing environment. You normally assume that there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. This means the demand curve has a negative slope. The term change in quantity demanded refers to a change along an existing demand curve caused by a change in price, and the term change in demand refers to a shift in the entire demand curve itself. A shift in the demand curve could be caused by a change in the marketing environment. If the environment becomes less attractive, maybe because of changing social norms, the demand curve would shift to the left. This is called a decrease in demand. And if the environment becomes more attractive, the demand curve would shift to the right, and this is called an increase in demand. Here are two typical demand curves labeled D1 and D2. They're shown as straight lines for convenience. By convention, price is shown on the vertical axis and quantity is shown on the horizontal axis. By the way, this is quantity per some period of time, such as quantity per day or quantity per month. Let's assume that the current demand curve is D1. In this example, the price is at P. The line from P to D1 and down to Q1 means that at price P, sales will be Q1 units. If the environment improves and the demand curve shifts to D2, at price P, sales will be Q2 units. The negative slopes are consistent with the law of demand. Lower the price and quantity sold will increase. Raise the price and quantity sold will decrease. I don't think I've ever seen a demand curve like this in an economics textbook, because this violates the law of demand. Our text explains that this represents the demand curve for a prestige product. At price P1, Q1 units will be sold. If the price increases to P2, the quantity demanded actually increases to Q2. The higher price makes the product more desirable. But when the price increases to P3, the product becomes too expensive and the quantity demanded declines to Q1. If you thought your demand curve looked like this, there would be no reason to set a price lower than P2 because both the price and the quantity would decrease. Most of you have probably had at least one class in economics, and I'm sure you studied the concept of elasticity of demand. I always found this to be a very confusing topic, and I suspect you did too. I have two methods of explaining elasticity, which I think are easy to understand. I call them Method A and Method B. I'll start with Method A. First off, we're trying to understand what happens to total revenue when price changes. With elastic demand, I want you to think of something that's elastic, like maybe a rubber band. One end of the rubber band represents price, the other end of the rubber band represents total revenue. Since the rubber band is elastic, price can move in one direction and total revenue can move in the other direction. And that's exactly what happens when demand is elastic. If price goes up, total revenue goes down. When demand is inelastic, think of something that is not elastic, like a pencil. One end of the pencil goes up, and so does the other end, because it's inelastic. So when demand is inelastic, if the price goes up, the total revenue goes up too. When price goes down, total revenue goes down. Method B is more like the explanation you find in many econ books. With this method, you divide the percentage change in quantity demanded by the percentage change in price. So this method uses ratios. The ratio is always negative. When demand is elastic, the percentage change in quantity demanded is greater than the percentage change in price, so the ratio will have an absolute value that's greater than 1. With inelastic demand, the percentage change in quantity demanded is less than the percentage change in price, and the ratio will have an absolute value less than 1. This slide demonstrates an example of inelastic demand. To read this, start in the upper left corner and read across the first row. We start out with a price of $100, and the quantity demanded is 1,000 units. 100 times 1,000 is 100,000, so this is our starting revenue. On the second row, the new price is $105, and the quantity demanded goes down to 990 units. The new total revenue is 105 times 990. This equals 103,950. So in this example, the price went up and so did total revenue. They moved in the same direction, so demand is inelastic. Now look at the columns. The original price is $100, and the new price is $105. Price increased $5, which is a 5% increase. The original demand was 1,000 units, and the new demand is 990 units. Quantity decreased 10 units, which is a 1% decline. So minus 1 divided by a positive 5 equals minus 0.2. The absolute value of the ratio is less than 1, so demand is inelastic. Next, I change the numbers a little bit and the demand becomes elastic. The original price is $100, the quantity demanded is 1,000 units, and the original total revenue is 100,000. The new price is $105, and in this example, the demand drops a good bit to 900 units. So the $5 price increase had a big impact on demand. Total revenue drops to $94,500. The price went up and total revenue went down. They moved in opposite directions, so demand is elastic. Now look at the columns. Price increased 5 percentage points. Demand decreased 10 percentage points. 5 divided by minus 10 equals minus 2. The absolute value of the ratio is greater than 1, so demand is elastic. These graphs are in our textbook. Mathematically, these are not correct. There are two reasons they are wrong. First, for any straight line demand curve, the upper part of the curve will have elastic demand. As you lower the price, total revenue will go up. The lower part of the curve will have inelastic demand. As you lower the price, total revenue will go down. So it's incorrect to describe the entire curve as either being elastic or inelastic. The second reason the graphs are incorrect is that they seem to equate elasticity with slope. Even the relatively flat curve on the right will have a region that is elastic and a region that is inelastic. I have seen the slope used to describe what is called relative elasticity. Using this terminology, you could say the demand for recreational vehicles is relatively more elastic than the demand for electricity. So what affects relative elasticity? One factor is the availability of good substitutes in the consumer's opinion. For example, if a consumer thinks all bottled water brands are about the same, she will be more likely to switch brands if her normal brand raises its price. That's one reason some brands like to position themselves as being different and unique. The second factor is the percentage of income that's spent on the product. When the percentage is higher, price is more important. To me, this makes perfect sense. Lower income consumers have to be more careful about how they spend their limited income, and so they're more price sensitive. A third factor is whether or not the consumer thinks the purchase is a necessity. When the product is more necessary, the price is less important. Consumers with high brand loyalty are also less price sensitive. The purchase situation also influences the importance of price. For example, if I'm buying my wife, who I love very much, an anniversary gift, I'm not looking for the least expensive gift I can find. I will pay more, maybe much more, for a gift if I think she will really like it. Finally, the perceived duration of a price increase affects the willingness to pay a higher price. For example, assume a short-term event disrupts the supply of gasoline and the price of gasoline doubles. If my car is empty, I may go ahead and buy the more expensive gasoline because I want to be able to drive my car. I expect the price to go down next time I have to fill up, so I'm willing to pay this one time. But if I think the price increase is permanent, I may decide to find a more economical car because of the high price. That's price and the elasticity of demand.